If you're looking into buying a business that generates serious cash flow, I mean cash flow north of $500,000 plus a year, and you want to use the bank's money, you're in for a treat. In this exclusive training, I had the privilege of hosting Matthew Zentner, the #1 producer at the #1 bank by volume in the country, and that is Huntington Bank. We broke down the exact steps necessary to acquire a $500,000 cash flowing per year business. What it really takes to get the deal approved, to get it finalized, funded, and closed. Matt shares insider knowledge from 20 plus years of experience in doing deals on what banks actually look for. Not what you hear, but what banks actually look for when they're trying to do a deal. Remember, the bank is not in opposition of you. They're partnering up with you, so they want to do the deal. So you want to get to hear what the bank really looks for and how to avoid costly mistakes, but how to really get to the debt service coverage ratio and the number that really matters for the bank. And we're going to talk about what about working capital? Does the bank fund it? Does it come from the seller? Okay, well, how can we get the seller to pay it? How do you get that and have it your way? You'll also hear stories from existing business acquisition mastery members who went from never owning a business to buying a $500,000 plus cash flowing business in under 8 months. If you're really serious about buying a business and finally escaping the rat race, this is a masterclass you won't want to miss. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome. In this webinar, I'm very privileged to have Matthew Zentner from Huntington Bank. We'll introduce him properly in a little bit. Right now, I just want to tell you a little bit about what you're here for. I'm going to move this to the side here so I can see better. All right, so how to buy a $500,000 a year cash flowing business using the bank as your secret weapon. Hence the reason why we have Huntington Bank here today. So what we'll cover today, the 6 essential principles to buying a business with SBA financing. Those are, 1, the importance of experience. We're going to talk about big considerations for bank financing. We're going to talk about number 3, game plan for operating the business post-close. Targeting your business and industry. This is very, very key, and we'll get into that. Buyer readiness. What it means to, when we're talking about buyer readiness, what does that mean? Having a deal team, what does that mean? What does buy box mean? And deal client fatigue, what does all that mean? And how business acquisition mastery, which we call ourselves BAM, can help you tip the scales in your favor. So before we start, let's remember the end goal here. You are here because you want to buy a profit, not just any business, but a business that is producing $500,000 in cash flow a year. And that changes everything. Now, some of you might have been exposed to, flipping houses or buying real estate, whether it is, up to 4 units or multi-units, or you may have tried other things, the stock market or whatever else you're coming from. And you may have some good experiences, some bad experiences. But the reason why you're here is because I have never seen anything that produces more cash flow than buying a business. This has been for decades purview or the domain of private equity. The super rich. Those are the ones who have been buying up and gobbling up business for decades. It's really until the last 10 years that this has sort of become a thing. Now, I've been involved in the industry for a long time. And now we're here because your this is going to change your financial freedom, your time freedom, your ability to quit your W-2 is the ultimate wealth creation tool. So who am I and why should you care? My name is Leo Landaverde. I'm a licensed M&A advisor, business broker. I've been in the game for 20 plus years. I have actually bought my first business back in 2004. Some of you who follow me on YouTube probably know my story. I was laid off out of a corporate job, making over 6 figures, And from one day to the next, after the sale of the business, I was one of those employees that was the middle management. I was let go. Since then, I bought my first business back in 2004, and I haven't looked back. I bought several businesses. I have personally closed over $100 million worth of transactions, merger and acquisition transactions, whether representing buyers or sellers. I have helped first-time business buyers acquire 65 million plus in business acquisitions in the last 18 months across multiple industries. In fact, inside of our group today, we have 10 student deals currently under contract, 5 student deals closed in the last 30 days. And the average cash flow of all students, of all the deals that we've closed since August 2023 is $560,000 a year. Now, where else are you gonna? Now, this is true cash flow in bank account. So, I went on tour this summer to visit 5 of our students. Every summer, I go on tour and visit some of our successful students. Matt may be aware of some of these. For instance, John bought a $2.1 million furniture liquidator with $730,000 a year in cash flow, pre-debt service in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, actually, it says a 9,800 foot. It's actually a 98,000 square feet warehouse. It was this warehouse for furniture liquidation was the size of a Walmart. It was enormous. Cipriano, we call him Cip. He's a member of our group. He bought a $1.5 million golf course, $400,000 a year in cash flow out of just north of Philly in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Chris bought a $550,000 roofing business doing $350,000 cash flow per year. Now, here's the thing that you need to understand. When it comes to bank, it's about debt service coverage ratio, and Matt is going to talk plenty about that. This deal, Matt, I'm not sure if I ever told you, is a 4-to-1. It was nearly 4x cash flow over debt service, probably the highest I ever seen. So it was just an awesome deal, and he's thriving. So he bought this business in closed in May 2025. In July, he actually purchased on a second business. Bo bought a $2.4 million property restoration business doing $750, and that's not a typo. It's actually $750,000 a year in cash flow, pre-debt service, post-debt service, $500,000. What could you do with that kind of cash flow? Now, let's just assume that you pay yourself.
I just want some garlic cloves that's wrong. I was just in the roast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask most of you guys to just, if you can just mute.
Yeah, what you can do is, Leo, you can go to participants and mute all.
Hello.
Participants and mute all.
Yeah, go to participants, the little arrow.
Hang on. Participants. Got it.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So Bob bought a $2.4 million business. As you can tell, I'm 5'10", he's 6'4". He's much taller than me. Now, this is a fun one. Animesh bought a $1.4 million axe throwing and escape room business doing $540,000 a year in cash flow in Green Bay, Wisconsin, just a block from Lambeau Field where the Green Bay Packers play. That was just really a fun gig, and that's me throwing an axe. And this is what's possible. All of them have never bought a business before. So what did they all have in common? They were all first-time business buyers. They closed in less than 8 months from joining our group, and they all follow the same predictable system. The truth is that buying a business is exceedingly complex. This is why buy-side advisors charge 5% of the purchase price. Now, I've been a sell-side advisor for over 10 years. Now, if you have run into business brokers and M&A advisors that our fees are not cheap. I mean, we charge anywhere from 8 to 12% on the purchase value of the business, and the business can range in $1 million of purchase value. It's a very profitable business when you're in it. So if you were buy-side representation for $1 million purchase price, you'll be paying about $50,000 if you needed a business broker to walk you by the hand and represent you. That's a lot of money. So this is why I created BAM, that's what we call business acquisition mastery, our group coaching program, to democratize the business acquisition system, to give first-time buyers everything they need to close on a business transaction in a matter of months for a fraction of the price of a buy-side advisor. So what are these all members of our group, band members, have in common? They have mastered the 6 principles you learned today to buy a business with an SBA loan, which is what our special guest is here to talk about. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Matt Zentner to Matt. Can you unmute yourself?
I did. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes. So
Perfect.
I'm gonna read the intro, and then he's gonna take over. So I'm thrilled because I have become fast friends with Matt. 20 years of industry experience. He excels at the science and the art of putting a deal together, and he's fascinated by helping people buy a profitable business. He has delivered access to capital, world-class experience from coast to coast across all U.S. lower 48. He's a seasoned lender with defined process, and he understands the process. And despite of what a lot of people think, he really cares about helping buyers buy a business. He's not in opposition. This is not me on the bank. It's how can I help you buy a business? And that's why Matt is here. I am excited. Matt, welcome to the group here.
Hey, thank you. So excited to be a part of the team here, and excited to be able to share hopefully a couple of good nuggets that everyone will enjoy. And so you kind of mentioned quitting your W-2 job. I feel like I have probably the best W-2 job out there in the world, because I get to help everyone else quit their job and start or build their dream business. And so I love what I do. I literally get to make dreams come true every day, and so it's such a joy. So a little bit about me really quick. Again, my name is Matt Zentner. I'm a national SBA business development officer here for Huntington National Bank. I'm based in Dallas, Fort Worth, but have the ability to help clients anywhere in the continental US. So from California to Texas to New York and kind of anywhere and everywhere between, I'm here to help my clients' dreams come true. I've, as Leo shared, I've been in the industry for north of 20 years, 22 years, I think now. And, started out in banking as a part-time teller and just worked my way up the org chart. And I've done lots of fun things over the years, but really found my passion and my love in commercial banking, and really more specifically fell in love with small business. I just, it's the backbone of our country. It's, where there's just so much opportunity to help people really thrive, exit their, corporate America job and really do something that they can have a passion about. And so I worked for the same bank for probably about 18 years of my career. So not a guy that jumps around, but I made the strategic choice to join Huntington because I wanted to be with the best of the best as it relates to small business. And so if you haven't heard of Huntington, we are the #1 SBA lender in the country. We do more SBA loans than basically any other bank out there and candidly, by a pretty wide margin. We're usually second or third, sometimes first from a total dollar amount perspective, but always first, I think, for the last 7-8 years running in terms of units of helping our clients. And so very, very proud of that. I've had the opportunity personally to be top of ranks within Huntington. So best of best at Huntington, which is a ton of fun. And so just to give you, a little preview, I think I've already closed 30 as of today, because I closed $3 million in transactions today. Actually, I think I'm north of $33 million in closed funding for clients year to date for 2025. So very proud of being able to help and assist clients like y'all every single day.
And that's why you're here, Matt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. 2 things I'll just share really fast before I jump into some nuggets for everyone. Is what differentiates us. Number 1 is Huntington is built to be able to execute in the SBA space very, very well, right? If you hear the word SBA, you hear anything to do with the government with 3 initials, you often think it's complex and hard. And SBA is one of those things. And so we've built our bank to try to simplify that process as much as we possibly can. To give you an example, when I worked for my other bank that I worked for, it was actually a top 10 bank in the US, so twice the size of Huntington. There was 8 people in the background that could help us get it across the entire country that would help get an SBA loan across the finish line. here at Huntington, we're like half the size of that bank. We have 350 employees in the SBA space alone. So we've built our bank around making that process as streamlined and as efficient as we can. The other thing that's unique about us is we're still a bank. There is other good SBA lenders out there, that do a good job. Most of the other ones that are out there are usually third-party lenders that are basically they help you kind of broker an SBA loan, and then they turn around and sell that loan on the secondary market to like a bank like Huntington that would then service it. And so in our case, we're in it for the long haul. We're a bank. We want to help you out of the gate, but we also want to build a relationship with you. And so because we think long term, we also help our clients with a long-term view. And so we do a lot of things a little bit differently. We oftentimes build in working capital into our term notes so that as you take over or build this business, you have some cash out of the gate to really continue to ramp up operations and make the business run. Because it's one thing to just buy the business. It's another thing to be able to run the business once you take over, right? And payroll comes due really quickly. And so we want to make sure you're set up for success. We also, in that same vein, set up every single client that we do a term note for. We also offer a line of credit to as well. Every single client, no matter what the industry, whether you're a restaurant or a doctor's office or whatever you may be, we want to make sure that you have enough, access to capital to really be able to make your business run efficiently and do the things that you want to do. So those are big differentiators for us. It's actually led us to be not only the number one SBA lender in the country, but we actually have one of the lowest default rates in the country as well. And it's because we set people up for a long-term success. So very excited to be here today and share what I can that hopefully helps you along your journey. So, Leo, I'll turn it back over to you, and we can jump into topics.
Great. A couple of housekeeping things, guys. As you come up with questions, feel free to put them on the chat or in the form of a question. We'll make sure to answer every question that you have. If we see a little bit longer, then it's okay. I think we want to make sure that everybody gets answers. Feel free to reach out to Matt as well. We're here to help. So if you get anything out of this, you walk away with that relationship with the bank. So that'll be a value add. So the first important thing that I want to talk about is the importance of experience, direct and indirect, and sellers' involvement, post-close, and licensing. How, in the eyes of a bank, what does all this mean, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, happy to unpack this one a little bit here, and it's often one of the things that people are most scared of when they kind of enter into, start looking for a business that they want to buy is, how do they narrow their focus? Where do they want to put their energy? And the good news is, experience is very important, right? We want to know that you have the ability to to buy this business, ease that transition risk, right, and be able to operate it, day one. But the good news is that SBA and the program out there allows us to be able to take on, to help clients, that may not have direct industry experience, right? An example is maybe you're buying a restaurant, but you've never owned a restaurant before, right? Or haven't directly worked in a restaurant, but maybe you have, some family members that have, or you have team members that will be a part of the business that you're buying that are going to help you kind of operate that. We allow buyers to get into industries that they may not have that direct experience that they've in the past, but maybe they bring some indirect experience, like maybe they've managed large teams in the past or done other things that there's this indirect experience that allows them to be able to get into this new business opportunity. The big thing that when I meet with a client, when Leo, you'll talk about this a lot through BAM, is setting yourself up for success and really telling your story, right? What have you done in the past that translates and relates to this business? How do you feel like you're going to be able to own and operate it going forward? And so we want to make sure we can tell that story, and so we spend a lot of time talking through that. Other things that come up a lot as well is we don't expect you to be able to run the business day one, like know everything, right? And so a lot of times what can be really strategic is we actually, in the purchase contract, right? And everyone will help kind of guide this, is that you may get the seller to stay on for a certain period of time as a consultant to actually help you, get through that business. A lot of times we see 30 days, 60 days, 90 days of where you basically have on the job training after closing to where that buyer is going, or that seller is going to stay on with you as the buyer to really make sure that you can run and operate that business. There is some SBA rules around it, that seller does have to exit at a specific time, and they can't be an employee of the business post sale, but they can be a contractor and they can have some negotiated time where they're there to help you train. So lots of tidbits, lots of things we can unpack later there, but I think that's always a good one. Other important consideration when looking at businesses is licensing. And this became a really hot topic when the SBA made some big changes to their SOP in June of this year. And basically it says that we have to be able to show who has the licensing requirements to be able to run that business. And if that's not you, if you don't, if you're buying an HVAC company as an example, you have to have licensing in that space to be able to run and operate that company. If you individually don't have it, that means you have to have someone under a management agreement that does have that license, because if that person leaves the business, you no longer have a business to operate. And so that creates a lot of risk. And so that's something that we spend a lot of time talking about, is who's going to hold that license? What did those agreements look like? The big thing that the SBA said last year, or this change this year, is the seller cannot hold your license anymore. And so we really have to be very thoughtful around who are other people, how can you get that license, what does that look like, post acquisition, so that you can continue to run your company if you are going into a trade that does require some sort of license. So hopefully, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on all these topics, but hopefully that's enough to kind of wet the whistle a little bit and get the wheels turning.
One thing I'm going to add, Matt, and thank you. This is just really insightful. One of the things that we teach inside of our group is that there is a process that we create to bridge the gap, we call it. Wherever you come from and the aggregate of all the experience and your resume and everything you've done, there is a bridge we're going to have to build. If you're going to buy a business that is not exactly in the same NAICS code that you're in, and how do we make a circumstantial case of telling the story so Matt can articulate it in such a way that the bank will buy into it, right? So, and that it's complex. It's not as easy as say, yeah, I'm good for the business. It's deeper than that. And just so you know, this is something that we spend quite a bit of time inside of our group, helping you hone in your buy box. So let's go into the next thing. Big considerations for bank financing. So equity injections, post-equity injection, liquidity, and credit character. Unpack that for us, Matt.
All right, absolutely. Well, I'm going to start first off is, the number one question when someone I meet with a new client is, how much can I buy, right? Like how big can the business, how big of a loan can I get to buy a business? And so, getting a loan to buy a business is very different than probably any other type of loan that you would ever get, right? When you go out and buy a home, right, you can get a pre-qualification letter to go buy a house, because the primary source of repayment when you buy a home is you, right? And you have a W-2 job probably at that point in time, or you have documented income. And so we can calculate pretty easily what the ratios say that is the maximum loan amount that you can get based upon your income. When you go to buy a business, it's a very different view. And the primary source of repayment when you buy a business is that business. And so, because ultimately it's the revenue of that business that's going to be making your monthly payments. And so the size of the loan is not dependent on you as the buyer as much as it is on the business that you're looking at purchasing. And so that's often a really big mind shift for a lot of clients, and really is sometimes hard to kind of grasp. And so I always like to share that out of the gate, that we really do look at the business more than than the immediate focus on the buyer themselves. However, with that being said, there is some big things that you can control that you bring to the table that can help you as that buyer, and are big considerations, right? And so one of the big ones is equity injection, right? You probably heard that a lot. That's a big word that basically is your down payment, right? That's kind of your skin in the game, that says, hey, bank, I'm looking to buy this business. I'm going to put some equity, some skin in the game, some cash into this deal, and I'm putting it in because I want you to have confidence that I'm going to be able to execute and run this business. And so, as a general rule of thumb, we like to see about 20% equity injection into our transactions. The good news is there's lots of creative ways for us to hit that number, right? And again, being a part of BAM is a really good example of like there's so many creative ways to hit that number, and being able to borrow Leo's expertise, my expertise, the team as a whole to help you craft those solutions can make a really big difference. One great example of hitting that equity injection number is using seller's notes, right? And they can count towards equity injections. That means in some cases that portion of money doesn't have to come out of your pocket, and it's a creative way to hit that 20% injection number. But at the end of the day, as a general rule, 20% is the magic number. Usually 10% does have to come out of your pocket. And so as you are thinking about size of businesses that you're looking to entertain, do you have 10%, right? Have you got that nest egg yet? And if you don't, that's okay. Now you know what you're working towards, right? And that's usually kind of towards the minimum side. The other side of the coin too is we do want to make sure that you have enough liquidity after you buy your business as well, right? Because again, having cash to be able to operate day one is really, really important. And so while the bank, Huntington specifically, would do a good job of trying to make sure you have enough liquidity, from a loan and from a line of credit perspective, we also want to make sure that you individually have enough money to kind of as a little bit of a safety net and nest egg for yourself as well, right? And so as a general rule of thumb, we look for you to have 10% post equity injection liquidity, meaning 10% of whatever the loan amount is, we'd like for you to have kind of in a savings account or in a checking account, non-retirement funds that you have available to you, maybe investments, whatever it could be, but it has to be liquid, that you could rely on as a safety net or a nest egg to help you kind of operate your business afterwards. So keep those numbers in mind. A lot of times those can be the numbers that really drive how big of a business opportunity you can go after. The last thing I'll leave you with here is just credit and character. One of the things that we have to do when we do SBA loans is that we do have to run your credit. And we do have credit criteria. As a general rule, everyone that has a credit score of 680 is kind of the main credit bureau that we look at, but we look at all three. We also look at character. We do a background check on you to make sure that there's no felonies or things like that happen in the background. And SBA specifically has a lot of rules out there that says if you've recently filed bankruptcy or you've been recently convicted of a felony, depending on what type of felony, you may not be eligible for an SBA loan. Or if you've ever defaulted on any government debt, even 20 years ago, you defaulted on another SBA loan, that could prevent you from getting that next one. And so we do look at credit, character, those type of things as well. So all are important considerations. Again, I'm just giving you the kind of the drop in the bucket today of high level things to be considering, but hopefully it's making the wheels turn here.
Hey, thanks, Matt. And there is each point we can spend an hour on each. It's so much to unpack. The one thing I will say about this is that deal structure is everything, right? I'm assuming that you come in with a credit, a decent FICO, good moral character to show for. Remember, it's about building trust, right? Will the bank trust you with money? Will the seller trust you with his business, right? But one thing that you have to, it's all about how you set up the deal structure, whether you have the 10% and not the 10 post-closing liquidity. How do we structure that? That is the science that we teach. We partnered up, and this is where the dialogue of the deal team comes in that we're going to talk about later, is all of us have to be singing the same tune to make sure that we set you up as a buyer the right way. When you buy a business, so you have ample cash post-close. That's the key. All right, let's move on.
Well said.
Game plan for operating the business post-close. Passive. This comes up a lot. Hey, I just want to buy a business. I don't want to do anything. I just want to be passive. I just want to collect mailbox money, maybe mailbox money. And purpose of the SBA process very active. I think this is a myth. So please talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. This one comes up more than you can ever imagine. And so fundamentally, the SBA was really designed to help stimulate the economy, right? Like create jobs, right? That is kind of the number one reason the SBA is out there. and these programs are out there to help banks lend more money to small businesses, right? And so with that being said, SBA does set out a lot of rules and parameters that say what type of businesses, what you can and cannot do. And one of the big rules of thumb is this business considered passive, or can the owner be they can be active in the business? And so I'll give a practical example, right? SBA was not designed to help an investor become even richer. Right. And so a really good example is you cannot take out an SBA loan to go buy the house next door to you so that you can rent it out to rent it out to someone and get mailbox money. Right. And so SBA says that doesn't create jobs, right? All we're doing is helping you buy something as an investment so that you can make mailbox money. That's passive, and that's not the intent of the SBA program. The intent of the SBA program is to, help lend money to businesses that are owner operated and that are creating jobs and stimulating the economy, right? And so we look at a lot of different things to determine if a business is passive or active. Doesn't mean that there's not active businesses out there that don't require 100 hours a week from you. That's okay, right? There's a lot of business out there that only require 10 or 20 hours per week, and those are perfectly acceptable, but they can't be 100% passive. One thing that comes up quite a bit that we do look at, and SBA has rules around this as well, is, hey, I live in Dallas, Texas, and I'm wanting to buy a business that's in New York, right? Can I, as a Dallas resident with no intention of moving to New York, buy a business that, is based in New York and requires boots on the ground to operate in New York? And candidly, the SBA says, no, you cannot do that. There are certain extensions, where maybe it's a virtual business or things on those lines and location doesn't really make a difference. But as a general rule of thumb, if you're buying a restaurant or you're buying a service-based industry and it's not within like a 3-hour distance of where you live, there's a good chance that you may not be eligible to purchase that business. Again, there is rules and ways around that. Again, it's all about deal structure, as Leo shared just a few minutes ago. But that is a big consideration, and so we do a lot of things to really to determine: are you going to operate this business, or is this just a pure investment? And if it's a pure investment, it may not qualify for SBA. So always a good topic, always something I kind of like to put out there. Again, other considerations post close that we do look at is, your business plan that you put together to show how you're going to operate the business. Who is your team that's around you, right? Do you have to have a management team that helps you run it? Who has the licensing for you to be able to run the business? What does your day-to-day involvement look like? That's something that specifically has to be outlined in your business plan. And again, this is where the value of BAM comes in so important, because they help you, walk you through all these different types of items to make sure that you're ready to build that business plan, and you have it in place when you're ready to put in that offer on that business, and can build the business plan as you need it. So hopefully helpful there, Leo. Anything else you think I should add on to that, or did I cover that well?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to add a couple things. I think the mentality and the framework when people come in into buying a business. Remember, if you have been an employee for 10, 20 years, 30 years, and you want to transition to employer, there's a mind shift. There's a mind shift that needs to happen for you to go from employee to employer, particularly if you're going to be a CEO of a 10, 20 employee firm. There is a process, a growth that you have to have as a person to be able to accommodate where you're going to go, because that's not the point is not to buy a business so it'll be flat revenue. So, everybody wants to, okay, is making 300,000 rain or shine every year, and I will do nothing, and it'll say that way, nothing ever stays the same, right? Either in business is fluid. Remember, you're dealing with ecosystem. You're dealing with employees, right? Employees come and go. Strategies change. Market shifts. We have tariffs now. We didn't have tariffs 6 months ago. But there is a way to make money. You just need to understand how to run a business. You have to learn how to become an operator. which I will leave you with that. That's something that the mind shift that we actually teach. I have been operating and running businesses for over 25 years. So all that comes, I will prepare you so you can be the CEO of the company you're about to buy. Okay, moving on.
Can I add one thing out there really quickly? I
Yeah.
saw a question around a great example, a laundromat, right? Can I buy a laundromat at, business acquisition? Yeah, absolutely you can. It still takes someone to manage that business, right? Day to day to run and operate it. So yes, absolutely. So there can be some passive type businesses out there that still require an owner operator to be involved in, and those are absolutely eligible. So again, it's having experts around you like this team that can help you kind of chat through those different types of deals, and hopefully structure it in a way that can help you make it SBA eligible, also get that loan across the finish line. So I thought that was a good example, and wanted to put that out there.
Well, man, you almost may want to keep going and answering questions, but I'm going to reframe. I do. You're allowed to because you're the guest.
Oh,
But
thank you. I appreciate
we
that.
have Guillermo in our team right now. He's collating and getting all the questions. I want to make sure that we address all of them with while you're here, Matt. But for the sake of time, I want to keep going. So number 4, targeting your business in industry, high risk versus low risk industries, and the bank's take on it. Financial performance and trends of target business. Oh man, now that we're getting into the really fun part.
That's right.
High
That's right.
risk versus low risk. What does that mean?
That's right. So, so SBA has, well, first off, high risk, low risk. What does that mean, right? And so it's almost what it sounds like, right? Is you know every different type of business or industry out there has risk. There's no business that doesn't, right? And so, but we do look at different industries to determine like how much is acceptable risk, and the SBA does the same thing as well. And so SBA has kind of said, hey, there's some industries that we will not play in. An example would be CBD, right? Any businesses that have to do with marijuana, right? The SBA has kind of said, hey, we're out. We can't finance those. We think there's a lot of federal laws, state laws that contradict each other. We don't know if it's going to be around, how long it'll be around, and so as a general rule, you can't touch marijuana type related businesses, right? And so but there's other industries out there, and banks have their own appetites within certain pieces as well, right? Things that they love, that they don't love. An example right now that Huntington doesn't love doing startup. We do not like to do startup breweries, and so we did a ton of them during the COVID era, and they not all of them did well, right? And so we have a portfolio of those that we're kind of working down, and we don't want to add a ton of breweries, startup breweries to our portfolio. Doesn't mean we wouldn't do a business acquisition, because if it's doing well and it's performing, we will obviously open up that credit box and take that into consideration. So we do look at different types of industries, what makes sense, what doesn't. Firearms is another one right now. If it's related to like guns, ammunition, firearms, those are tougher industries to dig into. And so we definitely, there is those type of industries that we try to stay away from. You can actually go out to SBA.gov and you can see all the prohibited industries out there that quickly say the SBA loan cannot touch. The other big thing I wanted to highlight here is financial performance. And so, this is one that's coming up quite a bit. I'm seeing a lot recently where you have sellers that are looking to sell their business, right? And maybe one of the things that we look at as a bank and that you should be looking at as a buyer is, what are the trends of that business, right? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? Is it stabilized? Ultimately, our goal always, and your goal should be too, is to find a business that's either stabilized, meaning that revenues are pretty consistent, net income is pretty consistent, and then maybe or businesses where revenue and net income have a good trend where maybe they're increasing year over year over year. But one of the things that we look at and we weight the most in our underwriting is we look at the most recent year, how that business is doing. And we even look at the current year, right, that they're in as well. And if we see that trends are going down, not up, that could potentially kill a deal. And so a lot of times we'll run into scenarios where we have business owners that are getting ready to retire. Maybe they've already retired to a little bit and they've kind of taken their hands off the wheel, and they're trying to sell a business that, maybe once upon a time was really, really good, but in today's environment may not be so good. Right. And so that's a really important factor. Something that we pay a lot of attention in is, how is the business performing today? How has it performed over the last 3 years? We do require every business that we finance. The SBA says we have to go out and pull the last 3 years of tax returns for however long the business was in existence, right? So at least, if it's been in business, 3 years, we'll pull all 3 years. And we have to be able to validate that their tax returns that they provided us match the tax transcripts that we pull independently from the IRS. But it's important we're seeing trends within the business and how that business is performing. And so I've seen some deals recently where the trends on the business weren't looking so good, and we had to have a lot of defense around how there was a lot of opportunity to turn that business around and move it in the right direction. But if the trends show that it can't afford the loan that you're looking to purchase the business, then there could be a big problem. It could potentially hurt the deal. So
Fair
let
enough.
me
That's
pause
good.
there, Leo. Anything else I can add on topic wise there, or expand on?
There's a lot that I can say about financial performance. After all,
Yeah.
I'm an accountant, right? I've been a CFO for 10 years, and we have a special boutique, and that's how I got into this whole thing. Financial performance, more important than the numbers are the trends, the percentages that it tells you. What is the story? If I see COGS increasing or decreasing year over year, why is that happening? Revenue dips, what's the story? Anything over 10% year over year change up or down, why is that happening? And then you need to understand as a buyer is how in tune are you with the industry you're about to get into? Is a construction company doing 50% gross profit good versus 30%? Why is it so high when the average should be 30 to 35? So there's knowledge that you need to have when assessing. So hence that's why the banks want to make sure that you have some industry knowledge to make sure that you're getting yourself into. That's where we work together, Matt and I, and I'll get into that later. But I'm gonna actually let me actually get into. So here's what you guys need to know. If you're attending this webinar, and here you have an M&A advisor and you have a bank. So what is having a deal team? In order for you, buying a business is not a solo endeavor. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do is try to go at it alone. It doesn't work out that way. I've seen buyers lose everything. And Matt can tell you a story of buyers losing everything, purchasing. There's no way that you can just gather 20 years worth of analysis into making the right offer. So having a deal team, who is in a deal team? You got to have the SBA lender, right? You got to have the M&A attorney, and specifically mergers and acquisitions attorney with plenty of experience buy side and sell side. You want to have a due diligence expert, whether it's a CPA or EA, enrolled agent or CPA, somebody who is understanding, or a financial analyst who understand how to actually put together a quality of earnings report if need be. You need to have an M&A advisor like myself who is going to hold this whole thing together for you. The glue that holds it all together is the M&A advisor. There's a lot of corresponding back and forth. There's a lot of deal making when the deal is being made, and things can fall apart at the 11th hour. You need to have somebody who understands how to put the deal back together if the deal derails. Buy box. Now, a lot of people just tell me, hey, Leo, I want to buy a business. Well, what type of business do you want to buy? I don't know. I just wanted to make cash. It doesn't really work that way. Remember, buying a business, Matt, wouldn't you say it's a sales job, right? You need to sell yourself to Matt. You need to sell yourself to me. You need to sell yourself to the seller. You need to sell yourself to the market. You need to learn how to brand yourself to buy a business. Here are the stats. Out of every good cash flowing business, legit business in the market today, there is 15 qualified good buyers. Let's sit on that for a minute. You come in to fight for a good business, there is 15 buyers ready to take that from you. You are one of 15. Now, all the businesses that are on the market today, only 20% will actually close. Why? because a lot of brokers out there don't know how to actually put a deal together. They don't price the deal right. They think that whatever the seller thinks goes. They don't know how to value the business. It goes in the market. Later comes to somebody like Matt and me and thinking there's no way that the business can support that kind of debt. It's not worth that much without making some huge concessions. So understanding that, and so buy boxes basically is your marketing, is the tip of the spear, is your marketing material, it's your brochure, how you come to market, it's how you show up everywhere, right? It's how it's going to define whether you actually have a chance of a broker calling you back. A lot of people come to me and says, I emailed, I market, I send letters to brokers, nobody pays attention to me. Now, if you have a very successful broker like myself, we get hundreds of emails every day. If you're a very successful lender like Matt gets hundreds of emails every day. Now, the thing is, we get to choose who we work with. And the words that you use, the documents that you use, the collateral, the acronyms, the wording that you use matters. Wouldn't you say, Matt?
100%. Absolutely. All day long.
Right? So if I came to Matt and said, hey, Matt, I'm really interested in buying an accounting firm, and this makes sense because I actually own an accounting firm, and I understand I'm looking for a multiplier, and I have the post-closing liquidity. Here's my buy box. It has a sliver of my net worth, all my bank accounts. It has screenshots of my bank accounts, the seasonality of my money, my resume, my experience. Matt's going to say, when
approved.
What do you need?
Right? Yeah.
What do you need from me? You need a term sheet? Do you have a deal?
Right.
I mean, it's a sales job. And the reason why Matt and I work a lot together is because we know that we deliver. Matt delivers, I deliver. So deal client fatigue. People misunderstand and overestimate that a seller gets tired in the market. Now, if you don't come at the right time, most deals get struck immediately. I put a deal to the market, but 2 weeks before, I'm shopping it as a pocket listing, which I can do because I can. M&A is the Wild West. We're not hindered by MLS constraints in the real estate side. We can shop around a deal as long as we want to, understanding business valuations. That I know there are questions we're going to get to for the sake of time. There is a lot to unpack that, but let me keep going. So I want to show you a couple of things, guys. Matt bought a $500,000 copywriting business at $170,000 cash flow. Okay. Once he came with a deal on hand. He had the deal. He couldn't get, Matt, this didn't come to you, but this is before your time. 4 lenders said no. 4 SBA lenders because he wasn't packaged right. It was way overpriced. I did a valuation by the book using our software, using our methodology. And I realized that this business was overpriced by $80,000. $80,000 on a $500,000 business is quite a bit on the debt service coverage ratio. We've packaged it. We looked at it. We waited. We got more recent interim financials. We want to make sure that he give us the debt service coverage ratio. That made sense for the bank. Then once we figured out, okay, it's worth this much. Go back to the seller, see if you can get a fully executed LOI, a letter of intent. We did. We found. While we were preparing the LOI, we went to a bank and said, yeah, this makes sense. I'll do it. I'll give you a term sheet because it was priced right. So that's super critical. So Matt saved $80,000 on his business just by having an accurate valuation. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Valuation is just one thing that you need to have done right. Your valuation doesn't, your buy box is not right. You're never going to get to talk to a broker. You don't get the right information, you're never going to have a valuation. And a lot of brokers a lot of brokers are choosy as to who they give information. Do you know that you can actually ask for tax returns? But you know, a lot of brokers don't give them, right? It's tit for tat. If they don't trust you with information, why would they give it to you? Because they don't think you're a worth buyer talking to, right, Matt? I mean, is that not what happens?
All the time. That's right. That's why we kind of step in sometimes too and help you pre-qualify, make sure that you're a prepared buyer. A lot of times between you and I and the team, we'll reach out to the broker on the client's behalf to help request documents because they know that they're serious at that point if you have a lender behind you. And so, yeah, all super important things.
Yeah, so it's a team effort, right? Get this. It's a team. It's like a basketball team. You need 5 people to get at the very least 5 of us working with each other to get a deal done. Moving on. So the risk of buying a business alone. Now, it is the most important transaction you'll ever do. It can take you farther in life than nothing ever will. It can create more generational wealth than nothing ever could. But there are risks. you can be overpaying dramatically. And if you give a seller $100,000 overpriced valuation, and even the bank will say yes, but you couldn't ask for $100,000 less. Had you known what to ask for and how to deliver, you overpaid. It's money that you're gonna be financing, because let's assume when you go with 10% equity injection, that's a 90% loan that is added, right? That the delta, it's added as a loan that you'll be paying for that you didn't even know you have. You didn't have to pay for it. It's knowledge is power. Then you pay 20 to 50,000 on buyer advisory fees, to 10 to 100,000 mistakes and deals falling through. If I had a dime for every person that came to me that they made a critical mistake in the product, that's what I started Business Acquisition Mastery 2 years ago. I get sick and tired of listening to buyers losing over, basically shopping around a deal and talking to multiple M&A attorneys, spending money on M&A fees before they actually had a deal. You can't do that. Right? You can't do that. So there's a lot of risk buying. It's a ticking time bomb, right? So this adds up to hundreds of thousands, anywhere from 45 to buying a business is not, this is why it's been privy of private equity groups, because for many, many years, you couldn't even compete if you had the deep pockets. Now that has been, because of SBA loan, it's because of SBA lending, it's basically leveled the playing field, but you still need to know what you're looking for, right? So if you want to know more about BAM, we'd love to talk to you about it. We have been very successful. Hey, you closed 2 deals today, Matt. I closed 5 deals in the last 2 weeks, but you know some of them, right? Matt was part of one of those deals that we closed. And we have 10 deals in the hopper ready to close, and we have 18 offers out there. Now, Matt is probably involved with a half a dozen of them, because we work a lot together, this is what makes it great. So finding and evaluating deals, sourcing on market and off market, we'll teach you how to do that. Structured and negotiating offers. We have all of the collateral materials put together by M&A attorneys. Due diligence, we have many. We have M&A attorneys. We have the due diligence folks. We have the lenders. Obviously, Matt is here as one of them. He's a member of our group. He just spoke to our group 2 weeks ago, right? And we have 30 some members, and they get to have conversations that you probably wouldn't have with them otherwise, right?
Spot on.
You didn't pay anything.
We're
right?
very open. We share what we know, right? Put people on the right path.
Because it behooves us that you buy a business the right way. Matt has a lifetime of experience and a lot of reputation to live up to. We cannot afford to make a mistake on any deal. So we'll give you everything. I need to be able to sleep at night with every deal that we do. So Matt and I take it very seriously. Post-close execution. Now, this is key. Now, yes, the bank will ask you to put together a document to show how you're going to run the business for the first 2 years. And a lot of people do it and file it away. Now, then that document is for you, right, to learn how to run a business. So you get access to one-on-one deal support with me. I am the only person that I think I know who has a group coaching program that is actually a practitioner of mergers and acquisitions. I don't know of anybody else who actually is doing this. And Matt and I are always talking about deals. I got deals in the market today. I got offers. He's pre-approving some of my deals. I'm helping buyers buy business. I'm in the game. Twice per week, 2-hour deep dives with me. And let me tell you, sometimes 2 hours is not enough. M&A network access. You need it. We have them. Probably 40, 50 resources out there. People that we work with